Monday's meeting between US President Donald Trump and Russia's Vladimir Putin in Helsinki has caused a lot of chaos and confusion. Trump stood with Russia when commenting on whether the Kremlin had interfered in the 2016 election.
I have President Putin. He just said it's not Russia. I will say this, I don't see any reason why it would be.
Trump later said he had misspoken.
In a key sentence in my remarks, I said the word would instead of wouldn't. The sentence should have been, I don't see any reason why I wouldn't, or why it wouldn't be Russia.
But on Thursday, he reached out to the Kremlin by inviting his Russian counterpart to visit the White House later this year, an invitation that caught many off guard, including his National Intelligence Director, Dan Coates.
We have some breaking news. The White House has announced on Twitter that Vladimir Putin is coming to the White House in the fall.
Say that again?
Vladimir Putin coming
Did I hear you? Did I hear you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's going to be special.
Trump blames the media, while Putin accuses unknown forces of trying to destabilize the US-Russia relationship.
Look at the sanctions I've put on. Look at the diplomats I threw out. Look at all of the things that I've done. Nobody else did what I've done. Obama didn't do it. Obama was a patsy for Russia.
We see that there are forces in the United States that are prepared to casually sacrifice Russian-US relations, sacrifice them for their ambitions in the course of an internal political battle.
In Congress, some lawmakers are urging their counterparts to stand up to the president. On Thursday, the Senate failed to vote on a resolution backing intelligence findings that Russia should be held accountable for interfering in the 2016 election.
Our own intelligence community, our own professionals in federal law enforcement don't know what to make of the constantly shifting whiplash of back and forth statements.
I think that our party needs to stand up more and say, this is wrong, this is untrue.
The Kremlin says it is ready to implement the agreements made in Helsinki, but it's unclear what they are because the White House is still to give a detailed report on what was decided. What is clear is that the confusion caused by the Helsinki summit has now become a full-blown crisis for the Trump administration. Philip Owira, TRT World.
We're joined now by political commentator Scottie Nell Hughes in Nashville. Good to speak to you, Scottie. So why do you think he's rushing to the second summit?
Well, I think it's because we have all of this confusion that is coming out, that is hurting the diplomatic relations between the United States and Russia, and we do need clarifications on it. Listen, this is everything that's happening is because the media, unfortunately, is pouring kerosene on a fire, that they missed their chances, their opportunities to actually find out what happened in the summit, but instead was actually focusing on more of the sensationalized, kind of the tabloid of the meeting, rather on actually what the policies that were discussed. So this is basically the president saying, no, we actually discussed policies and we want to actually confirm them so that we can move forward instead of focusing on the negative that seems to be kind of what's the headlines in most of the American press.
Well, the negative probably comes from the last time they met was behind closed doors, one-on-one. Will they repeat that again, do you think?
I think they'll have an open session. If they do the behind the closed door, like most diplomats do, they will have it open to the press meeting. I think the press missed a great opportunity. Amongst all of that open questioning that they had following the Helsinki summit, nobody asked a question. No members of the press asked a question about what policies were discussed. So now we're actually having to go back and find that out. And so it's a good thing. I do wish before that they do make clear what policies were discussed and what's going to continue and what's going to be negotiated. And that would put the shift of the focus back on policy and not the scandals that are supposedly involved. What?
So what policies were discussed, Scottie? What policies were discussed, and what are we expecting from the second summit to be discussed?
That's what we That's exactly what we need to find out. We need to find out if there were tariffs discussed. We need to talk about if there were any involvement or any repercussions on both sides, because just as much as the accusation of Russia involved in American elections, the U.S. has been involved in elections all over the world, including in Russia. So we need to talk about, are we going to start being honest with each other and our governments that are being involved with other elections around the world. So I think whether we're talking about trade, whether we're talking about national security and North Korea and China, or we're talking about interference in elections, I think those are what we should be focused on.
Well, the Trump relationship with Putin has been met with criticism, a lot of criticism, and polls suggest the public is uncomfortable with this, the U.S. public. So why does he still insist, do you think?
Well, I don't know about the U.S. public, or if it's whether the Beltway or the media that is uncomfortable with it. The majority of Americans feel like it's better if you have someone that's a nuclear power. It's better for us to have diplomatic relations, as the Obama administration tried, as past presidential administrations tried. It's much rather to have them in conversation rather than as an outright enemy. And when you're dealing with North Korea, and when you're dealing with Iran, you're dealing with other superpowers in the world, it's better to be having conversations. So I don't think the U.S. public right now is upset. They actually would do everything we could to try to not have war with Russia. And I think it's good right now that they are continuing that conversation. I get scared, and I think the U.S. public gets scared when we actually shut down having conversations with folks. That's the reason why we're in the issues we are with North Korea today, is because we did stop talking to them and just continued to send them money rather than actually having held them accountable for their actions. And President Trump is just trying to correct the mistakes of past administrations.
So Trump and the U.S. administration, though, have taken two different approaches on Russia. While he forms close ties with the members of his administration have taken a harder stance. So what do you make of this? I mean, is this reassuring to the public?
Well, I think what is reassuring right now is, once again, Rosenstein came out on Friday here in the United States and said that while there might have been interference, it did not affect any actual, any campaign, any votes here in the United States in the 2016. This is all about making sure that we continue to discredit President Trump's election, and that's not good for the United States. I think the public would like to see us continue to move on and make sure that we continue to protect our elections here in the United States, but that we're not going to start a war over something that we have yet to see any evidence on, and what continues to be a fishing expedition here by the opposition, whether it be Republican or Democrat, to President Trump's administration and his policies. Major distraction from what's most important, which is growing our economy and getting American workers back to work and securing our borders. All three things that President Trump has been very successful at the last 18 months.
Well, we have to wrap it up here. Thank you very much for that. That's Scottie Nell Hughes.